all kinds of fuzz going on and stuff. Can you guys hear me okay out there? Let's confirm that first, since this is only the second week using my new streaming setup. And I just want to make sure you can hear me. Give me a loud and clear, and then I will carry on with whatever's happening. And in the meantime, I will sip this. Oh, that's delicious. Really strong, but really good. We can hear you. Fantastic. Guitar sound okay? I thought, I got a new kind of thing. I thought what I would do is give these, and we'll see how this goes. It doesn't have to be this way, and it might not be this way every week, but I thought I would give these shows a bit of a theme each week. Something to kind of branch off from, and then like go from there. So this week I thought, why don't I show you a few of my favorite fuzz pedals? Because I realized that, like, sometimes I see, Rick Beato and some other guys that are really good at this stuff and successful at it, doing live streams that are just topic-based. I don't want to turn Sunday Live into that necessarily, but for 10 minutes or so each show, I thought, why not give it a bit of a direction and give it a bit of a branching off point, So, rather than just be random. So I thought favorite fuzzes. I always talk about my favorite fuzzes when people ask, but I've never actually really shown them in a video. Here's my favorite fuzz pedals, So the first one up that I'm going to show you, and I'm going to do this in a very lo-fi way. By the way, everybody, happy Thanksgiving if you're in the States, belated, and I hope you had a great one, and that you continue to have a good sort of, I guess, holiday weekend. And what am I going to show you here? Let me see. Favorite fuzzes. Okay, here's the three I'm going to show you. There's number one. It's actually on my board, which is the Starlight from Crazy Tube Circuits. So I've currently got that on my board for something that I had it on my board for the show out in Palm Springs. I actually used it on a Queens of the Stone Age tune with Josh Homme. And that's why it went on there. I was like, I need a little fuzz for this one part. That's the right one to go to, so I popped it on the board. Okay, the second one is this Ryra Muff clone, which I guess copies the... I got to grab that super chat there, too. I'll do that in just a sec. So the Ryra Muff clone that copies the green muff from the 90s, I do believe. And the third is going to be the Hyper Fuzz here from Boss. And you can see it still bears a sticker from one of my old pedal boards that it was on. And so these are three sleeper fuzzes, I feel like, that maybe, aren't real common ones people talk about. But I'm going to show you why I dig them and stuff. What song with Queens of the Stone Age? It was Sat by the Ocean, which was super fun. What a great tune by them. So it was so cool that I got to do that, and I made sure to learn all the harmony vocals and stuff and sing them with Josh, and I just had a blast. It was a real honor to be able to do that. Let me grab this super chat here really quick, and actually there's two. There's one from Andy. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Coffee for you, Mr. Peter. I'm getting kind of a coffee headache right now, to be honest. It's like I'm going to go slow on my coffee this morning because I feel like I'm just a little I had a headache for a couple days. I think it's like muscles from my neck or something from driving, and I drove for Thanksgiving, one of those things. But the coffee's not helping, I don't think, with that. So thanks for setting aside time for these, says Keith. And hey, both you guys, I appreciate the super chats. Thanks so much. Thanks for being here. As always, every week. Appreciate y'all being here. So, okay, let's check out first off here, maybe the Crazy Tube Circuit, since it's on the board, if you guys don't mind. And I'll go back to just my name there in the banner so that you can see the guitar. So what I'm using here is the guitar into my pedal board, which has this fuzz on it, and then I'm running out of the pedal board through the other two fuzz pedals. The Muff clone and the Hyper Fuzz are on my desk here, and they're both bypassed right now. And then I'm going straight into my interface, and I'm using the PT100 plugin from Brainworks, Sir, and UA. So this is channel 1 on the plugin that I've just got set up, obviously for a clean sound. I will also go for one of these pedals over to channel 2, which sounds like this. Good sounding plugin, right? And I'm on, for those that have this plug, I'm on cab sim number 76 right now, which is a Sir 212. I love the plugin, man. Every time I play through, I'm like, damn, it sounds really good. It's totally usable. So, okay, going back to channel 1 for a sec here. And then I'm going to turn on the Crazy Tube Circuits Starlight Fuzz. Now, you'll hear right away why this is a pedal that I recommend to people that don't like fuzz, because it almost at this gain level is like an overdrive. It's just like a fat drive, really. So you can use it like this, and then as you up the gain, this is with all the controls at 11 o'clock. And as you up the gain or drive, it gets into sort of more fat distortion territory. But it almost sounds like an orange amp or something, maybe. Like, it's not like, oh, that's obviously a really radical fuzz. And by the way, all these fuzzes, including this one, all play really nice with buffers. So that's a nice thing. You don't have to worry about, you know, having any kind of weird buffer stuff go on. So on the neck pickup. And once again, that's with no drive on the amp. So the nice thing about this fuzz is if I back the drive down a bit, so now it's here. Check out how it sounds in front of channel 2, which would be like equivalent of a crunchy Marshall kind of sound. And this is with the bright on the both channels, on the clean channel of the plug-in, clean channel of the virtual amp, and drive channel. So it plays really well with, you know, bright caps, and you know, so you can have a little bit of edge on your rhythm sound. So I just love this fuzz pedal, man. It's a great go-to versatile fuzz that can go anywhere from light drive through to kind of a thick distortion through to obvious fuzz as you get the gain all the way up. So pause here to answer maybe a so what is kind of a fluffy overdrive with a bit of hair to it. Yeah, exactly. And with the tone control, it's very versatile too. It's got a really wide sweep, so you can get it to work with a lot of different you know, different sounds. So Rock and Rolling says, never liked fuzz pedals, sounds like your amp is broken. I don't know. That just sounds like a nice sort of soft, you know, fat drive. You know, it's a great smooth sound, and it's sort of, I like fuzzes because it's kind of like aggressive and also smooth at the same time, or can be. I guess some of them can be really out of control. You know, but I love that, and I love, you know, mixing that with a lot of verb can sound really great on a sound like that, or, you know, epic delay. I mean, that's Gilmore basically. So that is the Crazy Tube Circuits. Era of the Beholder, says Con. Yeah, definitely, right? I think it's a really great. Spiro says, what pedal's that? So it's Crazy Tube Circuits, and the fuzz is the Starlight Fuzz. Absolutely one of my favorite fuzzes of all time, the Starlight Fuzz. So once again, that's in front of the channel 2 of the plug-in, so like a crunchy Marshall sound. If I go to the clean channel on my amp, it's almost like just a nice fat drive, you know? It has some stuff in common with an overdrive, some with a distortion, and it's not an obviously fuzzy sound. So it's the fuzz I always recommend to people that are like, I don't like fuzz, you know? You know, Joe says he can't get fuzz to work for him, but I don't know. I think that's a very, Con says very usable. I think it's a super usable sound. What's the plug-in again? The plug-in is the PT100. So my signature amp plug-in from Sir and Brainworks. Also very, usable. I love this plugin. Really sounds a lot like the amp. Maybe next week I'll do plugin versus real amp, and I'll go back and forth between the two, because that would be a fairly easy thing to demonstrate. Yeah. So, okay, so that's the Crazy Tube circuits. You guys want to hear some of the other ones? Let's, why don't we check out a couple of the others. Let's see. Clean channel. Let's go to the Hyper Fuzz. This is a fuzz all the time, but it's a great fuzz, in my opinion. And it's got a couple different settings, one which to me is pretty unusable. I'll show you that. I mean, maybe cool for an overdub or something weird, you know. I can probably find a use for that, believe it or not. But it's just gnarly, kind of, you know. Right? It would sound better if I turned the bright on the virtual amp off. But still weird. Usable and maybe for some industrial thing or something, I don't know. But anyways, okay, so let's get rid of that sound and I'll show you the one I like. This is an octave fuzz when you get up higher on the neck and use the neck pickup. Right, so it becomes an octave fuzz for sure. So it's got something in common with Octavia and Big Fat Fuzz. Once again, this Boss Hyper Fuzz, it'll work with any rig, with a wireless, with, you know, it's not buffer sensitive or any of that kind of stuff. They're hard to find. It's a vintage pedal. It's expensive. At this point, I've had it probably 20 years. And I don't know if you can find them anymore, but that's the FZ2. They now make a Waza fuzz, and it's probably got a similar setting to this in it. I'm not 100% sure because I don't have it, but anyways. So that's the Boss Hyper Fuzz, and I've used that a lot over the years. In my very first, if you watch my very first pedal board demo, where I was in the house in Santa Monica and I'm playing in like my living room, it looks like, and demonstrating all the pedals, you can hear me use it in the intro of that, and you know, with a bunch of delay and echo and doing kind of a Gilmore-y or something, you know, atmospheric kind of moody minor key thing with it. I love it. And then when I need a muff, you know, for Gilmore or that kind of stuff, I use this next pedal, which is the, it says Pi Muff on it, from Ryra. It's the green Ryra clone. Ryra stands for Rock Your Repaired Amp. Right? If you got to do Gilmore or whatever, that's a good one to go to and add some. You need the flanger and all the stuff in order to do it right, but works really great for any kind of, you know, Gilmore-y fuzzy stuff. So those are my three fuzzes. Once again, I'll show you the pictures of them just so you know. My three kind of favorite sleeper, you know, the ones that not everybody talks about. There's the Ryra and the Crazy Tube circuits, which is currently on my board, the Starlight. Yeah, so there you go. All right, what are you guys talking about now? We can talk about anything you want. We can talk about other stuff, whatever you like. I'm on the search for a bass fuzz pedal, says Karen. One that doesn't cause the low end to drop and has a gnarly tone and not a fizzy one. I would say try the Starlight. I bet it would work great on bass. I mean, shall we try it? Let's plug in a bass. Wow! That didn't work. I'll get my pee and we'll listen to it. All right, here we go again. Oh yeah! A green muff is a classic on bass too. That's what you're hearing right now. I mean, it's through a guitar amp, but That sounds pretty cool. I mean, if you used that and then blended it with a, somehow you used a mixer pedal or something, and some fuzzes have that for bass and stuff, where you blend the clean low end with the distorted top. But I'm pretty sure maybe part of the Rage Against the Machine sound is a green, pretty sure, a green, the Russian green 90s muff, and then with the clean low end, so 2 amps. Big muff. Oh, sorry. I neglected to read the end there where it said that the big muff not working for you. So let's hear the Starlight. See what that sounds like. More mids. More mid-mids. I'll turn up the distortion a little bit and see. I mean, it definitely pushes mids forward and doesn't maybe have the exact same low end, but your bass would probably be pretty audible with pushing mids like that. But it does seem to maybe focus too much in the mids, maybe, and not, like, I think I liked the muff better. Actually, let me hear it one more time. If I turn down the sustain, i.e. distortion amount, let's see what happens. I would think that would work good in a pinch on its own, or, blended with a DI or some kind of low clean, so that you get the definition of the low end coming through a little bit more. Jason says it sounds great. I think it sounds pretty good too. I've got the sustain almost all the way off. Of course, this is running through a guitar amp sim, so, Anyways, what else you guys got going here? Check out the Benson Germanium Fuzz, says Chef Jeff. That's cool. Haven't checked out that one. I like other Benson stuff. Their drive is amazing. I bet that, God, what probably worked great on bass is their the big sliders drive that works good for guitar, because it's basically like a preamp, and then it's got fuzz options built in. So yeah. Okay, I missed a couple super chats, so let me grab those, and let me just make sure I get those ones. Love the new setup. Great to hear some guitar, says Henrik. Yeah, I figure it's going to be fun doing it like this, because once again I can do more sort of themed on the fly. There's no reason why I couldn't do pedal demos on the fly, where it's like, hey, you guys want to hear this through whatever, and you guys could even suggest amps, what amp you want to hear it through. What it might be really fun. I just realized a light bulb went off the other day. And now with this streaming setup, there's no reason why I couldn't do. And it's cool for me too, because it's a little more interactive on the fly and quicker to make a video, which is always nice when you're doing YouTube. I'm not spending days making a video. I'm live streaming it. It's on the fly. It's very honest and straightforward. And so I think I might do some more stuff like that, where it's just kind of live stream style pedal demos or amp demos, or we can do anything, it's wide open. Like you just saw, hey, you want to hear it on bass? Let's check it out on bass. It's real easy. So I'm excited about this new setup too. This looks like a intense question. Buying Easy Drummer 3 Black Friday deal includes free Easy X. I want funk, but it's 1.4 gig. It's a big file. Old and on sale for $53. Big stage is 9 gig. I see. Are these like the individual packs you're talking about, Christopher? That with the different drum sounds? I would probably... It all depends, dude. I started with Easy Drummer. I was very happy with it for a while, and it is quite inexpensive. I ended up at Superior, and I'm using Superior now. And you can open in Superior any of the Easy Drummer stuff. So if you're like, I have the scratch, it seems like a good deal, now's the time, just go for it and get Easy Drummer. And yes, there, you know, once you start downloading more packs and kits, this is a plug-in drum program, guys, for like, you know, DAWs for Pro Tools and Logic and stuff. And it's how I do most of my drums in my videos. You know, if you think you're going to be doing a lot of work, a lot of production, a lot of stuff, and you like want a lot of control, you know, it's more control, more effects, more stuff that you can add to the drums. You can treat it more like a drum kit. Just go for Superior, and you know, it's probably not a heck of a lot more while it's on sale. If you're like, I just do this once in a while for a hobby and I just need some basic stuff, and you know, then Easy Drummer's great for that. So hopefully that helps. I might have just confused you more. Juan says, ever since your Sir Rufus demo, another great fuzz, by the way. I just don't have one in here right now. So it's a really good fuzz. Bought one, like it because it's more of a fuzz distortion. Would agree with that. Yeah. It's versatile in the same way that the Starlight is. It's very usable with a buffer. You know, it's more versatile than either the Boss or the Muff that I have here right now, and maybe even more versatile than the Starlight. You know, the Starlight is terrific in a similar way, I will say. But with the Sir Rufus or the Rufus Reloaded, I can't remember which one. One of them has an Octavia sound and then another sound, and so they're quite versatile. There's like, it's like getting two fuzzes in one, whichever one you get. Yeah. Troy was saying, what's that plugin? The plugin is my PT100 plugin from Brainworks, Universal Audio, and Sir. You can now get it, I believe, right from Membrini, or is it Brainworks? No, it's sorry. It was Membrini helped develop it, but it's a Brainworks plugin, and you can now get it. What I meant to say is not UA exclusive. You can get it native, so you can get it for whatever system you're using now. So no matter what, if you got a computer, you can use it, basically. So the Brainworks PT100. Okay, what else we got here? Steven says he can't get along with fuzzes. There's a lot of people that say that. I don't know. I always have fun with them, and I don't have a lot of problem getting. I guess it's just you know, what you're comfortable with and what kind of music you make and stuff. Paul says you've been using that fuzz for almost 10 years. I've been using the Hyper Fuzz for probably 20 years, on and off. The one I've got here has got a sticker on it from my first, I believe, or second Chris Cornell pedal board. So that means I was using it in 2008. So, yeah. It says L3. That means loop 3. I remember I had it on that board, and it's a long time ago now. Yeah. Okay. What else you guys talking about? Let's see. Amp also makes a huge difference, says Ben. Hi, Ben. How's it going, man? Some like a Fender style, others prefer Marshall. Well, and another great, you know, I can even show this with the bass. I'm holding a bass right now. This is my Fender 5-string, by the way, P bass. This is a very, very fun bass that I got from Fender that comes in really handy. Every now and then I need a 5-string. And it's just a 5-string P, and it's a terrific. So, I like it. Little Led Zeppelin for your Sunday morning. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, bright caps. That's what I wanted to show you. So if I turn off the bright on this channel, here's it on, here's it off, and then I turn on, let's try it here with the muff, with the bright on and off. It's off and on. You can hear there's a lot more fizz on top with the bright on. That's toggling it on and off. So this, to your point, Ben, you know, depending on the amp, that bright cap can make a Marshall can be really picky about fuzzes if it has the 4700 picofarad bright cap, you know, like a lot of super leads and 800s and stuff had. You know, it could just be picky. So putting a bright switch on an amp, or like a push-pull pot for the bright, if your amp doesn't have a switchable bright like a lot of Fenders do, can be really great if you're using fuzzes and hard clip distortions, because you can definitely then tune the amp a little more for the for the type of drive or fuzz you're plugging in. Okay. SG Lee says, now you're getting into my territory. I love a spitty fuzz. See, it's all different strokes for different folks. There's a super chat there I'm going to grab in just a sec. John says, I have a Sir Classic Pro I cannot seem to totally gel with. Not very resonant or lively. Considering a classic signature as a replacement. Yeah, I mean, maybe you just got one that you're not jiving with. I mean, it happens, you know. They're trees at the end of the day. So I've had Sirs, to be honest, that some seem more lively and resonant than others. Some ring like a bell. And then it's weird because some of them, you know, like might not seem super resonant when you're playing it acoustically, but they sound great plugged in. You know, I've had resonant guitars that are loud acoustically that then seem underwhelming plugged. I don't know. It just varies. You know, it's like it varies with different guitars. But if you're not jiving with a guitar, maybe it's not the one, and you know you can move on to a different one. Personally, I love my signature guitar. You know, it's my main guitar now for sure. I mean, it's the most versatile thing I own is the hum single version, and I use it all the time. And I love the neck on it too. They did a great job getting that just like I wanted it. Have a gig coming up in Montreal. I'll grab that super chat I missed there in a sec. Just one sec. I have a gig coming up in Montreal. It's an outdoor stage. How would you handle a gig outside in the winter? You know, I never have that much problem with that. I know it's next level in Canada, but you always think, oh, God, I'm going to be so cold. But bundle up. Wear gloves until right before you go on stage. You know, get your hands nice and warm. And then, you know, warm up your hands before so they're nice, you know, warm up backstage and stuff. And I always kind of like enjoy playing in the cold more than I think I'm going to. I'll get out there and it'll be like really cold and think, oh God, I'm not even gonna be able to play. But then you move around a little bit, and if you got layers on, you know, maybe you got on like a hoodie or something, then a jacket on top, you know, something cool to wear, you know, and then a t-shirt under that. So now you got 3 layers on. If you move around a little bit and then the lights kick in a bit, I don't know. I always find like I just feel like, oh, I'm not sweating, but I'm not cold. Like I'm right in the middle. Almost like going for a jog in the cold, you know? If you're playing, you're a little more active and you're physically, you know, and you get through it and you're like, that wasn't so bad, you know? But if it's like below, you know, 32 Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius, it might be next level, you know, cold. I don't know. People do it. And they survive. You'll be okay. Just bundle up and keep your hands warm before you get out there. And then get out there and start playing and move around a lot. Jump around. Yeah. Andy says, you make fuzz sound usable. That plugin sounds great. I vowed to keep clear of software guitar. After... What happened? You didn't finish your story. What happened, Andy? Are you still there? I'm worried about you now. Okay, what else we got here? I have the Hyper Fuzz, says Chef Jeff, along with many fuzzes. Me like you. I like them too. I love fuzz. Okay, I'm going to move way down in the chat because there was a couple super chats that I've missed here. So let's get these. Fuzz is super versatile. This is Rich Bunks. And the only solution when you want one note to sound immense. Kind of true. I mean, if you use a fat drive and a JTM 45 amp or something, one note can sound pretty big too. But yeah, it does help for one note to really sing. It was the Gilmore secret. I mean, he, you know, doing big, fat, sustainy single notes and hold them for a long time. It can sound really cool with a fuzz. My EQD Black Ash and Ramble Effects Twin Bender. That's a nice one. Kind of a tone bender fuzz. Will never leave my board. Stay fuzzy, my friend. Thank you, Rich. Thank you. Here's another EQD. Right below that was a comment. Dirt transmitter. I don't... what's... EQD, am I missing the... That's not electroharmonics. What's EQD? I don't know what that is. Don't know those pedals. Or am I missing something? An abbreviation I should know. Rat is cool on bass. Yeah, if a muff's not working, try a Rat, actually. I really like the Helix using a Rat in front of an SVT in the virtual land. So that works really well. I've only done it virtually. I've never run a bass rig with, because I'm not nearly as experienced with bass rigs as I am with guitar rigs. But one of my favorite bass sounds is Rat in front of SVT in the Helix in the virtual land. So could work for you. Jason says, have you ever played Dave's guitars? Like Dave Friedman, you mean? Just wondering how they compare to a Sir. You know, they're so different, to be honest, because they're mostly all the Dave guitars I've ever seen are sort of severely relicked. They've got intense relicking going on, where Sirs are generally not that. So it's like opposite ends of the spectrum. Dave was going from more like a really Warnian feeling, a hot rod Strat, and John's going for a very perfect kind of thing. So different, different. Even on the relic Sirs, the necks aren't really relicked, like they don't have all the tons of finish worn off. Maybe some of the roughneck ones do and stuff, but they still don't feel like Dave's guitars are really chipped all the way around and stuff generally, and it's a different vibe. Different vibe. What's the learning curve like for Superior Drummer, says Jason? Not bad. I don't find. I mean, maybe it was easier for me because I came from Easy Drummer, which is like a light version. But I would say it's not too bad. I mean, it's just it's nothing really. I mean, you probably get a good handle on it within a couple hours if you basically understand computer plugins and instrument plugins. Music Therapy Laz, another super chat there. What are your thoughts about AirStep Bluetooth wireless pedal and all-around studio stomp controllers? Yeah, I haven't gotten into that. I'm not really a Bluetooth guy. I like apps and Bluetooth and Bluetoothing up pedals to things, and it's one more thing to charge. And I just kind of, I don't know. It's a level of complexity that I'm just kind of not really into, I guess. So I'm wary of too much technology these days, even though I'm constantly surrounded by a lot of it. I like to keep it, like another layer. It's like enough, My rigs are complex enough as it is, I feel like, and I don't like, For example, like if I had to make a criticism of the Quad Cortex, one thing that I told them this as well, my main criticism was, I don't like that this is only going to be Wi-Fi, that I have to connect to, tether to my phone or to Wi-Fi to do backups or pull, presets off the Cortex Cloud or that kind of stuff. I want to be able to plug it in with a cable to my computer and do it in a little more traditional way, even though that's still high tech, I guess, but that's high tech 20 years ago. You know what I mean? And that was the one thing where it's like, okay, I need to connect to something and type in a code. It's like, no, I'd love to be able to do all this offline and know the thing is I'm going to be able to back it up or store presets on my computer and stuff. And they were like, nope, we're not doing that. And I said, come on. Like, nope. I was like, okay, but I let them know. I might, who knows if I'm right or they're right. They've done it, but that extra layer of having to rely on technology, I guess is what I'm getting at, is tough for me sometimes. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see. I just bought a Power Station 100, says Rick. Do you think there would be any problem running a 100-watt head into a 60-watt cabinet attenuating? No, as long as you keep it, you're probably going to turn it down quite a bit, like most people do, like half, right? And it's still going to be loud. Like a 100-watt head is blaringly loud for any gig these days if it's making full power and really doing what 100-watt. Think 100-watt plexi and how loud it is, or a twin, like really cranked. It's like nobody wants to hear that these days, it seems like. So most people are attenuating, I would say, at least 6 dB off of that. 4 dB at the minimum, 6 dB, maybe more like 8 dB. And then it's like, okay, now it can kind of live with a drummer, right? And sound about right in a gig environment. Maybe 8 dB is the number, where that seems to happen. 2 clicks on a hot plate, right? So if you're doing that, no problem. At that point, you're actually more like probably the equivalent of like 20 watts or something, running into that 60-watt cab. So, because really a 50-watt amp is only like, 3 dB quieter than a 100-watt amp. So it's like halving the volume is an equivalent of halving the wattage. If you're halving the volume, you're more like probably 75% of the wattage is what you're, think of it as loading all the way down and then reamping with about the equivalent of 20 watts or something. I would think you'd be okay. I don't want you to blow up your speakers though, but just listen to it in bypass, and if it seems like you're cutting like half the volume, roughly, you're fine, at that point. So, yeah. Your custom hand shaped by John Sir neck that you digitized. Pretty cool. Yeah, Paul, the neck on my signature is this one, and this is the one that John did for me off the green Sir Classic that I have. And I love the neck on this guitar. So, really nice neck and different just about than. Yeah, you can't get this neck on any guitar except for mine. It's specifically a Sir neck. So, yeah. Yep. Okay. What else have we got here? You must be crazy. It's too cold to play outside. I'm Canadian, so, I'm from Edmonton. Those who know. It's next level. Next level cold. Do you have the treble bleed circuit in your Sirs? I do. Let's Somebody was like, use a mute cable. No. Let's listen to what the treble bleed circuit sounds like on my guitar. I'll turn the bright back on the clean. To me, it's very, 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 very even. Here, I'll go to the parallel, a little thinner sound. You might lose a little fatness, out of the tone, but it's it's always a balancing act, the way that they do it, and it's a recipe. And to me, it's like I've grown very accustomed to it. Let's hear it through a dirty sound, dirtier. Right? Super usable treble bleed to me. I don't really think about it that much. It's not like, oh, is it exactly even all the way down? It just works. It just sounds good. To me. Yep. That's the standard, Sir. Treble bleed. Okay. What else we got? What else are you guys talking about here? Let's see. You guys are talking about germanium fuzzes and how temperamental they can be in the cold. And you're also talking about playing gigs in the cold. Strangely, a germanium fuzz would probably sound the best outside in sub-zero temperatures because it'll heat up, but not too much. Maybe, I don't know. When they get really hot, that's when they get weird. Dennis Cornell, germanium fuzz face, says Warrior of Genghis Khan. From the 90s, he says it's very temperamental to temperature changes, but it's worth the sound. Yeah. Somebody else was mentioning a Rose Morris AC30 that they'll catch on fire in the cold. AC30s are kind of like a giant fuzz pedal in that they can change tone, I find, when, they get hot and ready to catch on fire. So, yeah. TC says that his biggest gripe with fuzzes is that too many are dark sounding. I really like a cutting fuzz or huge sounding, like a muff. Well, a muff certainly doesn't have any lack of top end. You can really, that's tweaking the tone control on the Ryra, the Ryra muff clone I have right here. Yeah, it's really like this crazy filter. I don't even know what it's doing. It doesn't sound like a Rat where it's just like this big filter. It sounds like it's shaping the EQ curve, the whole time that you're using it. Let me go to the clean channel. It's not really great in front of a even a crunch sound. A muff is best in front of a clean sound. It's always interesting to me how on a muff, okay, right now the tone control is on about 1 o'clock or 1:30, and it almost sounds like it's scooping through the upper mids and then has a lot of presence. As I turn it up, it sounds like that goes down into the treble. Now it sounds like around 2 or 3K, like we're really boosting. But that's when you're turning it up. So it sounds like the filter is moving downwards at one point. It's really weird to me, the tone on a muff. I don't know if that's actually what's happening, but it's just what it sounds like. Hear that? Then it sounds like that upper mid thing evens out, and now we're just left with presence. I don't know what's happening, why that happens. And then as you turn it down below 5, it sounds like it's rolling off high end. And kind of adding a resonant peak all the way down. Weird how it works. But that's the mysteries of the big muff. Kind of fun. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. What else are you guys talking about? It's got a Variac, says T-top. My wall voltage is high, so it's using it to get into normal safe territory. It's adding quite a bit of hum. That's interesting. Is that normal? No. I wonder on the Variac you've got, I don't think they're all created equal. You might want to ask somebody like Friedman that question, and just like you need a Variac that's rated quite high for guitar amps and stuff, and for gear in general. A lot of them aren't, I think you need like is it 10 amp or, I can't remember. I don't take my word for it. Ask Dave what is the best Variac to get, and he will tell you on Tone Talk. Hit him up and let him know your exact application, what you're doing. I used to use one in a similar way when I went overseas to do gigs. And we were using a voltage, transformer to change from 240 down to 120. Because I would take my amps and my pedal board over and stuff. Back then, not even pedal board power supplies were switching and all that. So, you had to use those transformers. And when I did that, I would take a Furman, and it would come out of the voltage transformer into the Variac, out of the Variac into the Furman, and then I would watch the meter on the Furman and change it down to 118 or 115. Because invariably it would, is that a word? Invariably? I think it is. One of those words that's not a word. It just sounded wrong coming out when I said it. But anyways, I think it is. It would generally be really hot coming out of the step down transformer, I guess. Is it step up or step down? I always get that wrong too. I'm kind of an idiot, in case you didn't notice. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. Going from 240 to 120, many times I'd look at the meter, without the Variac, it'd be like 126. That's really high for an amp that's biased for 117 or whatever. So, and, electronic gear that's not supposed to see. So then I would just take the Variac and turn it down to like 118 or whatever. It seemed like the right thing to do, but it never created more noise in my experience. So I had a great big heavy Variac that I took overseas and would run the whole rig on. So, yeah. Okay. Let's see. You got 2 super chats to get to there. Let's talk to Monster Mash first here, and then I'll get to those. Looking for an attenuator with quality line out to lower volume, and also use Celestion for recording. Fryette PS100 is the best out there. I think so, that I've tried so far. Yeah. It's not even the most expensive, to be honest. Out of the old, I've got a Faustine Phantom here, which was great. Hard to get, and it's a whole story involving those, but it was a good kind of passive attenuator with a line out. But they were like $1,200 10 years ago, so a power station at what are they now? Close to $1,000 probably, right? It's less money, and it actually works great and kind of does more, So, yeah. All right. Okay, I'm going to grab these super chats that are hanging up here. Jason, thanks, buddy. I appreciate the super chat. Playing in a three-piece, we're thinking about all going with in-ear monitors. Okay, what's your suggestion for a great pair of in-ears without breaking the bank? You know, man, I quite like the ASIs that I've been using, which are a division of Sensophonics. And I'm going to tell you my honest experience with them. I've got the molds from them, which are very expensive. They're up around $2,500, believe it or not. And then I've also got the generics, and I like the generics. True story. The ASI generics, they have a nice sound. They're really easy to get in and out. I like the buds on them. I've had no problems with them. And of course, I've talked about these before, but the advantage with these in-ears is that you can mix in ambient sounds. They have mics built in. You have the added layer. I just got through saying I don't like more technology, but sometimes if it's really great technology, I'll do it. You have the added layer of having to use an extra pack because it's active to blend in those microphones into the in-ears. So look up ASI 3D ambient, and you'll find it. And you'll read about it and you can see. But they're really good sounding in-ears, just basic in-ear monitors that you can blend the mics in so you get some ambient sound on stage, and it's going to be an easier transition from not using in-ears to using in-ears, I think, because you'll be able to still hear the musicians on stage and when you can hear the audience and stuff, and it's really nice. Now, the system is around, I got to double check, but I think it's about $600, I think. I'm gonna take a look for you right now and see. But that in the world of in-ear monitors, I mean, a pair of molds, your average molds from Ultimate Ears or 64, that's kind of a starting price. I don't think that having a good set of molds is cool, great. I've had I've had 64s, I've had 2 sets of Ultimate Ears, I've had this French pair that I've got that's actually pretty cool. All 3 driver, 6 driver, different ones, Some people love them. I'm just always like, I don't know, they don't sound, it never sounds great to me, to be honest. So the ASI using the generics with the mics, that gives me a completely different, it's like a whole nother world of, the realism of hearing the mics and then just blending in some of your guitar and getting what you would normally get in an in-ear. That's been my happiest in-ear experience. I'm not, having said all of this, not a huge fan. It looks like they're about $7.99 now. They might have a special offer thing on it. I see there's a special offer link on their website. But it's asiaudio.com. That is the link. So you can check it out. Looks like they're around $7.99. You can read about it and, see what you think. They got a Black Friday deal. Limited time, save $100, free shipping by now. So it sounds like you might be able to get them for $6.99, including shipping. I'd go that route. I mean, it's been my happiest experience, if you're asking me. But I'm not a normal in-ear user. There's a lot of people out there that are super happy with their Ultimate Ears, and they like the isolation, and they like being totally cut off, and they like they've moved totally to the in-ear world and they're happy with it. I'm not that guy. I've never been. So I'm always looking for something different, and that gave me the different sound that I'm looking for. So, okay. Let's see. Have I tried the Walrus Audio Kangra Fuzz with filter? I have not, Glenn. I haven't checked out that one. Sorry. Yeah. Messiah says you know exactly what's happening. TBM tone control is very unique. Is that what's going on with it? Did I get it? It's strange, where the resonant peak is shifting and all that, and it's a strange, the muff. Mark says in a super chat, thanks Mark for the super chat. Love the show. The PT15 amp looks great. Just curious why 6v6 tubes instead of EL84 for a rock style. It was John's suggestion that we try 6Vs. And see how it goes with them. I think maybe he had a good experience using with the Kelly, and he liked the sound. I liked the Kelly amp. You know how they did a reissue of the Jim Kelly amp. And he said, "Why don't we try these?" And I kind of like the way a 6v6 distorts in a kind of an EL34 kind of way. I like the sound of Tweed Deluxes. I remember liking a Victoria Double Deluxe I've also had a FTR 37 from Divided by 13 that was 4 6v6s, and I like that sound. So I was like, yeah, let's try 6Vs and see what it sounds like. There was a stigma that isn't necessarily correct, I don't think, surrounding EL84s, that they kind of sound skinny. Maybe it's just the look of the tube, you know. Friedman, I think, has done a nice job designing a nice power amp that works really well with EL84s and sounds big, you know, so it can be done. But maybe that stigma was also there. Like I thought, oh, I don't know, a dual EL84. Also the Sir Badger, you know, they never sounded to me, it's a great sounding amp, but to me it sounded like it didn't quite have the headroom in a Badger 18 that I wanted. And John was like, I'm going to try and design a 6v6 bass power amp that sounds big and has a, you know, runs kind of clean. And that all made sense to me. So that's what we did. And it sounded great. You know, he built it into the amp and built it up, and it's a really, really, really nice power amp that it's mated to. And I've never had that headroom issue with it, really. You know, sometimes I'm on the hairy edge of feeling like I don't have enough, but I generally always have right about enough, you know, to make me happy and do a gig and feel like good, you know, with the stage volume. So it worked out. Had I heard it and it sounded like a Princeton or something, I wouldn't have been happy, you know, would have been like, it's squishing out too early. I can't get, you know, can't get clean. But Ryan says, sounding good, Pete. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate you. You're always here, and I do not take it lightly. Thank you, my friend. Good day, fellow gear dorks, says Steven. What did I miss? Well, we did a whole fuzz pedal extravaganza, but you can check it out. You can listen to it later if you want to. I was just showing some of my favorite fuzzes. The Ryra Muff Clone, the Hyper Fuzz FZ2 from Boss, and the Crazy Tube Circuits Starlight Fuzz. Yeah. If you have a bunch of music you don't know where to go with, is a producer needed? Well, yeah, that's from Mike. Yeah, maybe. Or at least just a good friend or some friends to bounce ideas off of and give you some direction, you know? Craig Thompson says, invariably is a great word. Thank you. You know when you say things like, what's the irregardless? That's the worst one that people, you know, they use it to sound, you know, highfalutin, but it's not actually a word. So when I said invariably, I thought, is that a word? Because I'm, at the end of the day, I'm a knucklehead with a high school education. You know, I feel like I have a pretty good vocabulary, but I'm not college educated. I'm a layman. Okay. iBarge says, in the video that Rick Beato did about the Brown sound, they used a Variac. There was a lot of noise. Was there? That could be pickup noise or something, though. I'd have to go back and watch. Also, just one, I love Rick, and they do a great job, but the one thing they did in that video is they didn't rebias the amp for the lower voltage, which you don't have to do, but I think it's kind of a key thing. If you rebias the amplifier for the Variac so that it's, you know, the power section of the amp is kind of seeing what it wants to see as much as possible. I mean, Eddie's crude way of doing that back in the day used to be to simply crank the bias, which, you know, if you're biasing down to, you know, you're Variacing down to 90 volts and then you just crank the bias knob, you might be way out of, you know, might be red plating your tubes and stuff anyway, because it, you know, he was doing a kind of a crude compensation for the lower voltage, but the tube still might be, you know, way out of what the spec is supposed to be. So anyways, I was told that, you know, that this is coming from Rudy Laren to Friedman. He said that once Jose started matching sets of tubes and they started biasing properly, all their problems went out the window as far as, you know, blowing up amps and, you know, everything resolves magically, right? So that would make sense. But, you know, they were having fun back then. Okay, Hobo Roadie says, I just use my Variac to warm up ancient capacitors. Yeah, you're supposed to, anybody that doesn't know that, if you've got an amp that hasn't been plugged in for, say, 10 or 15 or 20 years, you know, you're supposed to bring it up slowly on the Variac. So the voltage is increased slowly and kind of reforms the caps or something. And you know, it's not the best thing in the world to just power it up to 120 if it hasn't been turned on for a long time. A tube amp. Yeah. Okay. So let's see here. Moving through the chat. Moving through the chat. Christopher Butler has another kind of a technical sort of question here. EMI buzz as right hand near selected humbucker, including resting on the strings. That's interesting. Touch strings with left up the neck, it lessens. Left on strings alone, silence. That's a weird one. Some sort of grounding going on with your guitar, and as your hand comes close to the bridge, it's breaking the ground or something. I don't know, but I'm not the expert, you know. Yeah. Oh, you've got it on a couple guitars, a Carbon and an Ibanez. I don't know, dude. Honestly, that kind of stuff, you know. This guitar seems to not do that at all, you know. So, yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I wish I could help with that one. You know, environments and grounding are so weird. It's like, take it somewhere else and see if it does it outside of your house. I would be interested if you go to a, you know, rehearsal studio or recording studio or a friend's house or something, if it has the same effect, you know, or if it's something inherent to your environment. Yep. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to sneeze, I think. It's happening. It's going to happen. There it was. I warned you. Okay. You guys are talking a little bit about the ASIs here. Jason says, I'll check them out. Thanks, man. Very much appreciated. Price range seems good, too. Yeah, and there's probably some sort of money-back thing, Jason. So on the, I think this is the in-ears we're talking about, right? The ASIs. If you order them and you didn't like them within a few days, you can send them back. But I suggest you get them, power up the thing, download the app, because you can change some things. You don't need to, but you can actually change some really cool stuff on the app for the ASIs, including the volume of the microphones. You can switch in a limiter, which is nice, and do some different things to kind of configure them. And then you don't really ever have to do that again if you've set it and you like where it's set. So, but, you know, do all that and play with them a little bit. Take them to a band practice. They're almost like an active earplug, you know, where you can turn the volume down. Because when the volume's up at 0 dB and you got those things in your ears and they're blocking all the ambient sound, but then the mics are on, you can bring up the ambient sound to the exact same level as if you didn't have any in-ears in or anywhere below. So that's nice because you can still use your amp as you would normally and, you know, just lower everything minus 6 dB or something. Get it like, oh, that sounds good. I'm just taking the edge off, band practice. And then if you want to use then a wireless, you know, Sennheiser or Shure in-ear system pack, you plug it into the pack the ASI comes with, and then you can mix in stuff from the board, get some lead vocal, you know, whatever you want in there, you know. And it's just a different way to go at it that is an extra layer of complexity, but for me, it's worth it, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Righty. Mike says, agreed, any headphones are still a lot better than any in-ear. Interestingly, I saw John Mayer using headphones on, you know, recent Dead and Company tours where he just had headphones on. And he's like, yeah, I like them because I can, you know, he didn't use them with the solo. I asked him about it, and he said he liked to be able to instantly pull one off. So instead of pulling an in-ear out, which is kind of cumbersome when it's a mold, you know, with those, you can just, headphones, just pull off a, you know. I could see liking headphones more than in-ears too. Another thing to note, you know, is that the wireless nature of an in-ear system always degrades the sound quality. So until they get that sorted out, you know, I've got a lot of friends, bass players, drummers that use a wired in-ear system. So, you know, you're getting basically a direct, you know, an 1/8" cable feed off the desk. There's no wireless anything. There's no latency. There's no, all that sound you get in ears sometimes when the frequency is not quite right of the transmitting frequency. And, you know, it never sounds quite as robust and good as, you know, a set of good headphones just plug right into the desk, right? So that's, you know, another aspect is if you're stationary, if you're not moving, you know, your keyboard player, your bass player, your drummer, you're going to be kind of in one place on stage. You can do that. You can use a wired pack, and then it's probably quite a bit better, you know. So there's multiple things that contribute towards me not really digging in-ears, but that's just one of them. Yeah. I've kind of like resigned myself to like, if I don't have to use them, I don't want to, you know. I'll do it if it's, you know, I won't make a stink about it if it's like kind of mandated on a tour. I want to work, so I'm not gonna like make a stand or something. But if there's a way around it, or if they're like, yeah, we'll give you a wedge, we don't care, like wedge in ears, I'll always go with the wedge and not use them. You know, the only time when I would say no, I'm using them for sure. Super loud stage, that's just like, okay, this is like punishing like the side fills, because sometimes like, you know, you can be on a stage where everybody's using in-ears, and maybe the singer that you work with or something like that is they're an old school rocker, they love loud side fills or something, and they just want screaming loud on stage and tons of their voice, and then it's just like, okay, I'm gonna kill my ears up here. Or another time is like if my place on stage is in front of a drum kit or reasonably close, you know, where there's a crash cymbal and a snare drum that's only like 6 feet away from me, then it's like, okay, I don't want that, because then you just end up going deaf. You know, where they put you on stage. And then the other one would be big festivals, you know, where you've got long ramps and stuff that you're running around on. I'm totally cool with using in-ears in those situations, because there's no way to stay in time when you're, you know, not, you know, you can't lock when. It's funny. I was talking to somebody a little while ago. I won't name names, but it was a guy from a really big band, you know, stadium band, and he was talking about how back in the day, you know, when they were playing, people would go way out of time because they were just like off running up down ramps and stuff like that. And back then, before in-ears, it was like people were relying on wedges, you know, but you're also hearing the PA and the delay coming out of the PA and stuff. So you'd just be in another area code as far as your time goes. You know, he was like saying how that drove him crazy, you know. So, yeah. A 35-watt PT amp would be cool, says Jeff. Yeah, I mean, 50, I think, you know, or 45 or something is probably more my, you know, 50 is a really nice number for headroom, especially if we're talking about a modern 3-channel kind of design. There's nothing you can't do with you know, 50 watt, I think. Yeah. Let's see. What would cause a string out of nowhere to go flat? I'm in drop C. It's my F string, which is G for you standard guys. Just temperature. You know, if it got hot, it'll go, you know, sometimes, I mean, guitars can drift like a half step almost, at least certain strings, you know. Or slip. It slipped somewhere at the bridge, you know. I've had all kinds of. You guys ever had E strings just go south on you all of a sudden, like where you bend and you're like, whoa, why is it all flat? And it's like the ball end is unwinding, you know. I used to have that on my Scala guitar, which is like a Les Paul style tailpiece, and I got a run of strings for a while where all the E strings were gone, like, and it was just like a bad run of strings or something where the E strings on that particular guitar only, and I think it was just due to the tailpiece and the bridge arrangement, the ball end would start to unwrap. This happened on Kaler bridges a lot back in the day. If anybody remembers Kalers, they had the kind of the cam system, and the string would go into a little retainer behind the, almost like a tailpiece, behind the, where it would break over the roller saddle. And the string would break over the roller saddle and then kind of lie on top of this cam, and the winds would lie right on top of that cam, and that was a fatal kind of design flaw, I think. And then go into a little black plastic thing that it would, you know, that's where the ball end would slip into. But the winds rubbing on that cam, E strings just used to pop all the time on Kalers. So that's when Ernie Ball came out with RPS, or reinforced plain strings sets, and they were for Kaler users really that had that problem. They just put a coating around the, kind of look gold, around the wind to the ball end. Well, when I had that problem on the Scala, I contacted Ernie Ball, and I was like, well, there's one guitar, I'm having the ball ends just fly off for some reason. Can you send me some RPS? So they did, you know, and that worked fine. The coated string protected the ball end and the wrap. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't know. You know, sometimes strings are just wonky. You know, another thing that happens often on it. You guys ever have D strings that won't intonate anymore? You're like, why can't I? If you look at the D and it's like, whoa, it's way out of intonation if you check it. And then like you'll move the saddle and it's still not changing. And if you listen to the string on its own, you play it and you can hear it going, kind of like, you know, like a single note. You can even see it on a tuner where it's wobbling. And there's something about the gauge and the thickness of a fourth string on the guitar, a D string, that occasionally I think the wind slips through the wrap. Isn't this insane? I think about this stuff, but it's like I've had it happen only on fourth strings. Only on Ds does this ever happen. The wind will slip through the wrap, and you can't intonate the string anymore, and anything you play sounds out of tune, and the string even by itself sounds out of tune. It's got a little wobble. Some of you I know what I'm talking about, but it's wacky when it happens, and it's totally confusing. And anybody have that happen? Yeah. I think I brought that up before. I might be repeating myself, but it's so strange. Okay, I'm going all the way to the bottom of the chat here, but I've had G-string winds break at the frets. G-string winds break at the frets. I've had high E strings break right in the middle of the string, like around the 12th fret or the 7th fret. You bend and it just right in the middle breaks. It's so weird. That's a strange one. Only, counted on both hands the amount of time that happened in my life, but it's happened. Kind of wacky. Yeah. Rick Nielsen and Jerry Cantrell are the only two Kahler users I can think of off the top of my head, says Nathan. Yeah, that's true. I can't really think of anybody that still does it either. Yeah, I had a guitar with one that I put on. I had a tech put it on. It was a Fender Lead 3. Remember those? And I had a Kahler put on it, and the guitar was autographed by Yngwie Malmsteen. I took it to a meet and greet and had him sign the body. Sold it. I don't know where that guitar ended up, but yeah, if anybody ever sees a Cherry Sunburst Lead 3 out there with Yngwie's signature on it, that was mine. Weird. But yeah, kind of a strange thing happens with them. Jerry always has a great tone, but they were known for kind of neutering the tone of a guitar. Like, a lot of people would complain that the fundamental note vanished, like especially on the low strings, like that it just didn't have the solid thing anymore. Something to do with that bridge design. They were so like the advantage to the Kahler was they had this beautiful feel that was totally unique. The kind of like had this soft kind of, a little more like a Bigsby, but you could do more with them, But it was this soft kind of feel with the bar that was very nice. Had a great action to it that was kind of cool. But yeah, they were a mess to put in the guitar. I mean, you had to route the whole top of the guitar, and they were like the guitar was basically, that was it. Once you put a Kahler on, you're not going back to any other kind of bridge. Kind of, I mean, a Floyd is similar. You got to, it's a different route and stuff, and but this was like really severe. The amount of wood you had to take out. That's a tough one, Anytime you design something for a guitar where it's a major, now you're cutting wood out of a guitar, it's a drag. Ben says need to solder the strings. Yeah, that was the other thing you could do, is actually drip solder on the winds. Yeah. Wireless became part of Angus Young's tone live and in the studio. That's a different thing, though. That was using the old. I have one right there. Let me mute the guitar sound. That didn't work. Oh, that's why. Sorry, still learning how to use my pedal board after 8 years or something. The Angus Young wireless thing. That was this, of course. The Solo Dallas recreation is what this is, but this is a recreation of the original Schaefer Vega wireless receiver, which, Angus would use the Schaefer Vega wireless. It was a crude early wireless that happened to sound really cool. It had an input and output control on the receiver, so you could pump up gain and then bring up the output, and you could kind of boost into your amp with it. And it used a kind of compression and expansion circuit that sounded unique, and you could also boost. So people like that, I guess, the boost. These things kind of went out of favor once FCC started clamping down on, wireless frequencies and, radio frequencies and stuff like that. It was early days, but that everybody used that. I mean, Gilmore and Angus and Eddie and everybody used one of those for The early days of wireless. Did you make the All-Star Food Show at the Forum? Says Mystic, or my NYC Shelby. Geez, I almost made up your name there. NYC Shelby GT500. Cool cars. Yeah, I did. I was there for the whole damn thing, to be honest, and I was a total fan. I stood right in front and watched the whole show, and I really enjoyed it. Had a great time. It was a great vibe in that room that night. It was a very, very special show. Just a beautiful kind of energy in the room. And I met a lot of people, saw friends there and stuff, but I also met families, and I was kind of glad I went alone, actually, because I did. I just showed up alone, got in line, went in, and it was like I loved hanging out with the people that were there. Very nice guy and his family. He watches the show sometimes. He from San Diego. He bought me a T-shirt. You know, he's like, "Hey, I watch your show all the time. Let me get you a shirt." It was so kind. You know, I've told that story before. I've worn the shirt on the show. But thank you again if you're out there, my friend. Appreciate that. And you know, it was just this really nice vibe, and talking to the people that had traveled there. Met a mom and her son that had come all the way from Maryland to see the show and made a vacation out of it in L.A. And he watched my channel and stuff as well, and we talked guitar. And he was a nice young guy, and I just thought it was so cool, him and his mom like coming all the way across the country to see the gig, and made a little trip out of it. So these like positive things that came out of a terrible thing, I guess, and that was the vibe that night. It was like people kind of celebrating life, I guess. It was a really nice vibe in that room. Really, really great. View of the Askew says, hit that like button. Yes, please, hit the like button. Spread the show far and wide across the worldwide interwebs. I'd appreciate it. And what else are we talking about here? Let's see. I'm going to go down to the bottom of the chat and see what you guys are talking about down there. Oh, yeah, that's true. Media Junkie says Steve Clark used Kahlers on his Les Pauls. Some of them, at least, right? He did. Phil Collins had a Kahler, didn't he? I believe Phil Collins had a Kahler on that Ibanez Destroyer signature version of his, a gold one. 3 humbuckers and a Kahler. Rock and roll. Yep. Okay. Let's see. Scott says, yeah, Kahlers sound like poop to me. No sustain. When you look at the design, it's like this great big flat thing that sits in the guitar, and it seems like the strings are very disconnected from the body, That's the only thing. I mean, I even feel that way about a Floyd in some ways. I mean, it's a lot of metal, and you're basically only, the connection between those knife edges is all you got. And I guess a lot of bridges are like that, I guess the posts on a Tune-o-matic, but also the tailpiece is making contact with the body, and yeah, so whatever works, I guess. Though, yeah. Braxall says that he had high E string unraveled around the eyelet in his tremolo block, and when he would tune the string, and it kept going flat. Yeah, I've had that kind of thing happen. Tune it up, it dies. When I see that happen now, I'm like, oh, this string is dust. I just know it. If I keep tuning it and stretching it and it keeps falling in pitch, I'm like, the ball ends up going to pop, and I'll just, rip the string off and put another one on. And when you start to see things like that over the years, you're like, you kind of know what's going on. It's like the D thing, where the D sounds, I'm like, why does my guitar sound so out of tune all the time, even though I'm tuning it and it's not? And it's an out of character thing for that guitar. One of the first things I'll do is go and look at the D and see if it's doing that thing where you can even see it on intonation, where the string sounds out of tune when you play it by itself, like you hit one note and you can kind of hear it warbling. That's when the wind has slipped through the core has slipped through the wind. Excuse me. Yeah. I've never known how to say this fella's last name, I must admit, but he was the guitar player in Jefferson Starship. Craig Chakio. Did I say that right? Chakiko. Craig Chakiko. Did I say that right? I hope so. But anyway, yeah, he used to play for a while there in the early 80s, those crazy Carvins that were like X pattern, wild looking shape guitar. I remember that, and he used Kahlers. I remember him in the ads, with like pink ones and stuff. Crazy looking guitars. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay, Ben Coombs has got a show tonight, of course. He's my faithful moderator. He says, just a heads up, he's got Rob Welch from Tessie Switch on tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on his show. Rodney says Kerry King uses a Kahler trim. You know, if you've got enough distortion, that's going to take over no matter what, right? So if you use a fairly, you know, I mean, Jerry's tone or, you know, uses a lot of gain in the front end. So, you know, or Kerry King. Let's see here. How's it going? Curious how you would compare the NUX Amp Academy with the Humboldt simplifier. Well, the Humboldt's analog. And it doesn't really have drive is my memory of it. I'd have to go look again to see if you can overdrive it at all. But, you know, you're basically talking about a modeler versus a, you know, I'm about to do a video for the Ampster from Carl Martin. This would be a similar product. This is all analog. Carl Martin doesn't do anything digital. They're a totally analog company. It's why they don't really do a reverb other than their spring. You know, so they're all about analog. So this has got an analog cab sim out, and this would be similar to the simplifier. A kind of an analog, you know, amp on pedal board. It doesn't have power built in, but you take a DI out and go direct to the board and get a cab simmed sound, that kind of thing, and all in the analog realm. A little bit of drive you can get out of it when you crank the gain way up, but it's basically supposed to be kind of like a Fender or something, you know, that then you'd plug your pedals into. That's a little more like the Humboldt analog, straight up, you know, smaller amp sim that you'd put on a pedal board, right, with some built-in cab sims and stuff, and power amp tube simulation and stuff like that. Whereas the NUX is more like full-on amp modeler, you know, Marshalls and Voxes and rectifiers and stuff, right, with IRs and, you know, so that's the main difference. JJ says, just picked up a Ryra clone. That's a clone that really works for me and sounds and feels great with the BT15. Awesome. Yeah, I think ultimately the Centaur sound is not that, you know, there's the Soul Food and the Ryras, and I use the Archer, you know, which I really like and have for years, have no desire to change, but there's a lot of good clones out there, I think, you know, and it's a big fat single note overdrive. So that's cool. I'm glad you like it with that amp. Bruce says, anybody out there ever use an Electro Harmonix MiG 50? I've, you know, I'm familiar with them. I mean, it's basically a Bassman. Kind of a JTM 45 Bassman thing, and they're kind of built like crap, but you could have a tech go through them and kind of tighten them up, and they're decent amp, you know. It's a good quality basic JTM 45 style tube amp. I wouldn't say it's good quality, to be honest. I would say that they're, you know, the old ones, you know, back in the day, they were pretty rat's nesty on the inside, but you could go through and make them more robust and reliable and all that, and get a good sound out of them for sure. You know, it's a you know, straight up Tweed Bassman / JTM 45 with, you know, a couple differences, I guess, but I'm not an amp tech, but that's my understanding of the circuit. Robert says, had Dave ever offered you a signature amp? You know, the thing with my signature amp is I got with Sir so long ago. I mean, it's been since 2008, and Dave wasn't doing anything like that back then, you know. People probably don't know, but I had the second Marcia ever made, which was the precursor to the BE. Number 2. You know, Dave built one, and then he built one for me. So I was using Dave's amps a really long time ago, and that was a terrific sounding amp. I wish I'd kept it, you know, because it would be really cool to have now. You know, probably be, hey, this was basically the second Friedman amp. Not, you know, he built others, the Nakeds and all that stuff, but it was the second Marcia ever made, which was really essentially the second BE ever made. He had to change the name because, you know, Marshall came along and said, hey, you can't call it a Marcia. And he said, okay, no problem, Friedman. And that's where Friedman Amps was born. So I go way back with him with amps. But, you know, we've talked about doing things together over the years, but I've had a Sir amp, you know, when it comes to guitar amps, not anything like that, because I've been with Sir for so long. But Dave is one of my best friends. So is John Sir, and they're friends, you know. So it's all in the family. who knows? Maybe down the road we do something together. It doesn't necessarily have to be a guitar amp, but I really, Dave is a gold. He's awesome. He's one of my best pals, like I say, and I'd love to do something with him at some point. So, yeah, we geek out on guitar all the time. Okay. Let's see. I think I missed a super chat, so I'm going to try and find that. And I'm sorry if I did. How can a musician find out about auditions for touring bands? Well, it helps to be in a music center, first of all. That's the main thing. Living in a music capital is imperative, I think, when it comes to finding out about gigs and then networking. And that just means getting out and playing and meeting people. And these days it's simpler than ever. I think it's there's less of a golden, whatever. It's not some sort of like, oh, you're not going to get in. It's like, you got to get out and play. You have to be good. You have to go out to the, clubs and, songwriter nights and things like that. Meet people, shake hands, make friends, hang out. You'll get in some band. People in that band will be connected or won't. You'll get in another band. Somebody in that band might be, and over the course of a couple of years of doing that, if you're a young player and you want to, kind of make your way, you meet people. And if you're a nice person, you're the kind of person that other people want to be around, things just happen, It's just networking. That's all it is. And the only way to do it is really to still be physically, I think. You can make a lot of headway on Instagram or on YouTube by being you could get out there if you're really talented. Look at Matteo Sasato, right? That's how he really, it was Instagram. That's it. That's how he got introduced to the world, and he conquered Instagram as it. Now, of course, the competition's a lot greater now than when he started, but I still think he would do it, because he's that good on guitar, right? He's crazy good on guitar. So if you're that good, you can get out there. Or even if you're not that good, but you're really good, then you can still, make some headway. But you still got to be in the place where things are getting put together, tours and stuff. If that's what you want to do, touring bands. Tours are based out of Nashville or L.A., sometimes, I guess, some other cities that are, have a music scene going on. But generally speaking, those are the places that the tours come out of, So, hey, we got a tour, we're looking for a guitar player. Can you come down to blah, blah, blah rehearsal studio and do an audition? We have to be physically present there to do that, So, Aaron, there's a super chat, $4.99. I appreciate it, Aaron. That'll keep me in some coffee beans for next week. I need some new beans, so that's going to happen. Have you thought about putting timestamps on your lives? I find it very handy on other live feeds to go directly to specific topics. Sounds like a lot of work to go through each one, and that sounds like hours of, so I don't know. I'm not that. I'm a little too lazy, I think. I think this week's, coming up with a topic to kind of talk about for 10 or 15 minutes, that's going to be my new thing. But maybe I'll put a timestamp on that. That'll be like fuzz pedals, and then the rest of the show. Those will be the 2 timestamps. How about that? This show goes on for a couple hours, so it just seems like a lot to do, Speaking of which, we've been going for an hour and 23. I'll be here for another 40 minutes or so talking about guitar and music and anything else you want to discuss. Have you ever tried a Diesel VH4? A little bit, yeah. They sound great, and here they have amazing build quality. Yeah, they were, a classic. Been out for probably 20 years or so, and when they showed up, they were like all the rage of, you got to get one of these. And everybody always talked about Channel 3 as being the one, I think that was magic. Great sound for a heavy, down-tuned, guitar styling, so that kind of thing. And, of course, when paired with something a la Tool as a, super lead Marshall, those two sounds together could be absolutely crushing, a more vintage-style amp combined with that high-gain, crushing, huge frequency thing. So, definitely cool. Saw you play a Gibson Carina Explorer recently. No, actually. It's a Ibanez Destroyer, I think, that you're referring to. It's one of my favorite guitars. So it looks like a Carina Explorer, but it's a Destroyer. It's sitting back there against my couch. Love it. What's so special about the Carina Vs and Explorers? Well, the story of the Carina V and Explorer is so interesting. Fender, when they first came around, really shook up the guitar world. I find this whole subject. Absolutely fascinating. I could go on at length about it. But essentially you had Les Paul. This is going to, little history. This is late 30s, 1940, whenever he developed the log, which if nobody's ever seen the log, Google Les Paul, the log, and you will see the first, sort of solid body electric guitar prototype outside of steel guitars, lap steels, ever made. Les Paul built basically a 2x4 kind of looking thing that was a neck through body kind of thing, and then he shaped very crudely 2 body pieces that could go on either side of that, all out of solid wood. You'd clip those on either side of the 2x4 looking thing with the neck and the fingerboard attached, and it kind of looked like an archtop traditional guitar, but it was all solid wood, and it was a neck through design. Kind of interesting. So, and his idea was it's going to sustain more if it's solid wood, to not be hollow. He brought this to Gibson, and Gibson was like, that is the stupidest thing we've ever seen. We're not going to do it. And so think late 30s, 1940, whenever it was. I think it was 38. That rings a bell, but I don't know, something like that. And they weren't down. So he goes on and ends up becoming, quite popular over the next 10 years. And so now it's 1948, 49, 1950. What happens then? Fender shows up at the NAMM show, right, in 48 with the original Broadcaster guitar. Everybody thinks he's crazy. What's he got? A guitar, it's solid wood, it's got a bolt-on neck. I mean, imagine how crazy it was. Nobody had anything like that then. Well, sure enough, catches on, people start using it, and that was the original Broadcaster. He had to change the name to, first it was the Nocaster, unofficially, but then the Telecaster. And the idea with the name Telecaster, for those that don't know, television. It was the dawn of the TV era, and everybody started getting TVs. Telecaster, like, whatever, out into the TV world, the Telecaster, casting out into the, that's where the name Telecaster came from, right? It was a television. So what came after that? The Stratocaster, which was, as the space age was kind of, and you had, everybody, the space race and all that, Stratocaster, into the stratosphere, right? Casting into the stratosphere, Telecaster and Stratocaster, excuse me. That was where it came from. There was a futuristic thing. That was the theme with Fender's guitars back then, and they were futuristic. I mean, nothing looked like that, nothing sounded like that. And lo and behold, it was an idea that caught on. And even as revolutionary as those guitars were, I find the evolution and the invention of the electric bass almost as fascinating, the original Telecaster bass and then the precision bass, because if that didn't, oh, we got some spam in the chat there. Grab that, Ben, will you? As the era, kind of progressed and stuff. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, bass, right. Bass. You would still have everybody with big upright basses standing there doing this if it weren't for Fender coming along going, let's make a smaller one, right? And so that was revolutionary, to now you've got these kind of portable guitars that you can get loud with and plug in and then have sustain. And, meanwhile, the way I started the story was, of course, talking about Les Paul with his crazy through neck, right? And Gibson says to themselves when this starts taking off, like, holy shit, we got to compete with this now. Who was that crazy guy that came by with that guitar 10 years ago? Les Paul. Well, Les has become quite popular at that point as an artist, as a recording artist, Les Paul and Mary Ford. And they say, we want to take a meeting with you. He's somewhere in, I think, upstate New York or something. Gibson goes there, and they've developed the Les Paul, which, it's not called Les Paul yet, but it's basically looks kind of like an ES-295 that's a solid body and slimmed down, right, with the glue-in neck. And they took it to him and basically said, we want you to endorse this. We liked, or I don't know if they said we liked your idea. I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, basically, will you endorse this? Will you become, will you get behind it and be an artist that gets behind this? So the guitar was not, I don't really think, at least initially, Les didn't have that much to do with the design of the Les Paul outside of, it was a solid body electric guitar. But he tried it and went, this is cool. This is sort of what I had in mind. Yeah. And so he got behind it. Now, quickly, there were some problems with it. The bridge angle, the neck angle, the weird tail piece, you couldn't palm mute with it and stuff. So they made some changes right away from 52 to 53. Then you've got the evolution of the Les Paul and stuff, and it becomes, what it became. Iconic, of course. But I think it was maybe the Les Paul still kind of slower to catch. I mean, you see most of the, the people using the solid body electric guitars of the day, the popular artists, with the Tellys and the Strats and the Fender basses and stuff like that. So Gibson was kind of late to catch on with the, Les Paul wasn't really catching. Like, I don't know if it was like super popular in the 50s. I kind of get the impression it did okay, through the 50s and even through up till the mid 60s. So they're looking for more of this, Fender's got this futuristic stuff. We need to catch onto that bandwagon. We need more models, And so that was the Flying V and the Explorer. Exploring, Flying V, Stratocaster, right? It's really interesting to me, like what they were trying to do from just a marketing perspective. Let's come up with something crazier, the modern, right? It's a really neat period in guitar history. And they were too weird, the V and the Explorer, and certainly the Modern, which they nixed, before it ever got started. But they just didn't catch on. And so they discontinued them. This was too weird, But of course, then time catches up with it. The 1960s come along. They've discontinued the Les Paul because we got to go to this SG, the solid guitar, right, and do something else. And then all of a sudden, you've got Peter Green and Bloomfield and all these guys that start playing Keith Richards, Harrison, and like showing up with Les Pauls, right? Oh no, now we got to reissue that. And of course, that was a little bit of a debacle. They came out with the 68, custom and gold top, but they didn't do the burst, which was what all those guys were playing. Why didn't they do a burst in 68? It's so crazy, It's like really interesting. But anyways, so yeah. Anyways, that's the story. That's what's so special about them, is actually just that they were these kind of, they were a failure, and yet years later, time catches up. Hendrix starts using a V. Then you get the birth of, hard rock and heavy metal. They start playing Vs, and Explorers that, Gibson go, let's catching on again. Let's reissue them. I guess after Hendrix, he was probably the first one, right? Albert King, some other people used Vs, in the late 60s, early 70s, but they kind of took off again, and it just took them a while. It took a while for people to catch up. But My Knees Hurt says, I love the history of all things rock and roll. Me too. I find this era fascinating because there was so much development going on, musically and also with the gear, It's an amazing time. So, yeah. This is really the magic. I mean, when we think about somebody like Bonamassa, I think would really probably expand on this and expound and expand. He's obviously fascinated with that era and American inventions and innovations and stuff like that when it comes to music gear. It's just a really fascinating time, and that's where all the the collecting comes from and stuff like that. So. Ben Coombs, right, hence the name Precision for precise noting. Precision bass, fretted, of course, versus fretless, which everything was, up till then. It's really interesting. Yeah, Fender added frets and made it portable, It's really interesting. So, Javier says, loving the history class. I find it so it's one thing, I don't know much about anything, but I know a little bit about this stuff. And I find it endlessly fascinating. So, yeah. Yeah. Pete makes me want a hyper fuzz, says Emery. I know I played one back in the day when it came out, but I didn't really get how to use a fuzz. It's funny, man, because I remember a Japanese guitar magazine, probably Young Guitar, that did a bunch of Boss, and it might have been all the Boss distortions that were available at that time, and they kind of gave them ratings, and it was like a little bit of a review in the magazine, and I couldn't read it because it was, a Japanese guitar magazine, but they had ratings and then like little like symbols beside, like that I seem to remember, like little emoji style symbols or something, denoting sort of what they thought of it and its usefulness. And the Hyperfuzz just had a question mark. This is probably 25 years ago. They were like, we don't know what to do with this thing, but of course, years go by, and Fuzz is pretty cool, man. I mean, and the Hyperfuzz in particular. Yeah, in America, I know of music capitals, says CT68, like LA, Nashville, Vegas. Yeah, Vegas is another one where there's a whole nother scene. I mean, the shows that go on there and the kind of, the installation shows or whatever you want to call them, the sort of residencies and stuff. That's a whole world of work that I'm not involved in, even though it's only a few hours from here. But Other cities that I'm missing, I guess Austin was, you know, kind of a thing for at least for a bit. I don't know about now, but it's still, I would say so. You know, there's still music going on. Most people that go to Austin, they tend to, the vibe I get is that it's not what it once was, or they go there and they're like, yeah, I kind of liked it, but, you know, not to talk, you know, I like Austin. I like going there and stuff. But if you're going there for a music career, that's what I hear a lot, you know, just, I think most of those people probably end up in Nashville because it's not far, and that's more what they thought. And it seems like Nashville's a little more accessible these days than maybe it ever has been. Like, because there's different styles of music going on, different scenes, and a lot of people, you know, people in Nashville say, don't move here because so many people moved there. So now it's very crowded and trafficy and stuff like that. But there's a lot going on there. And it's more, you know, there's a lot more going on there than ever probably. And so, yeah. But, yeah. Okay. What else have we got? What are you guys talking about? Chris Quinn got a new water heater. Always so much fun, right? It's like, you know, like you gotta buy. I had to buy a new water heater a while ago, and it was like, I'm really gonna spend money, but that's being a homeowner, right? You know, the joys of home ownership. Oh no, I need a new washer dryer. That's more exciting than a water heater, I think. Water heater's like the. It's just like, really, And then you get it, and it'll, you know, if you get a good one, I guess it'll last 20 years, hopefully. You can't see it, you know, and you just expect to have hot water. It's not that exciting. At least a washer dryer, it's got beeps and blurps, and you can see it spinning around. It's a little more exciting than a hot water heater, marginally. Why am I talking about this? Appliances. Oh my God. You should do a PT100 and BE100 hybrid amp with multiple channels that mimic both amps. Truth to be told, and if Dave, you know, if you ask Dave and you ask John, they ain't that far apart. They're just not. I mean, just out of, not like they're copies or anything, but they're both based on a Marshall circuit design kind of architecture with the, you know, we're basically doing versions of Marshall high gain, you know, which includes adding gain stage to a Marshall, an old school Marshall design, kind of with stuff very in common with a JCM 800 or a Plexi design, you know, just refining it. Now, you can change the sound a lot by just changing a few parts here and there, or changing a few things, you know, but on paper, if you look at the schematic, you're like, well, these are like brothers, if not closer, you know, absolutely, you know, so that's how close they are. So not really that different, you know, that's the truth, you know. Both John would say that, and anybody that really does not even a Soldano is that different, you know. Another gain stage, I guess, and more, you know, parts that are a little more different, but the basic architecture, you know, of the way the circuit is laid out and stuff. I'm not a tech, but that's how I understand it anyway, and when it's explained to me. You know, To the bottom of the chat. See what you guys are talking about. Jacob must be good because he says, speaking of Nashville, I've just gotten some gigs on Broadway. Been using my Pro Junior amp. What other small combos would I recommend? I love the little silver Princetons, man. I mean, you know, it's a great little amp. It doesn't have a bright cap on it, so they're a little on the dark side, but you just turn up the treble and they sound great with pedals. And if you're using a Tele or something anyway, you got plenty of top end. So it's a great little portable amp. If you want a little more juice, you know, for bigger gigs, the Sir, what the hell's the matter with me these days? I always forget the name of this amp. The 50-watt combo. I can't remember the name. I'm having these episodes lately where I can't remember things. It is called the. I always get mixed up with the Ombre, but the Ombre is, of course, the there it is, Bella, the Bella. I forget the name of it, but yeah. So the Ombre is a little 18-watt, much more. I don't think that's the one to get for Nashville clean headroom and pedals. You know, it's a little more like a little proto Marshall, the killer, but it's like early ZZ Top tone all the way, without pedals. The Bella is the one that's like a great pedal platform. It says it's 44 watts, probably conservatively rated. dual 6L6, basically a pedal amp, you know. It's going to be a little more juice than something like your Pro Junior. A little more, a lot more. It's going to be a lot more headroom and a lot more, you know, clean power. It's a terrific pedal amp, so you could look at that as well. For others, if you want super lightweight, I don't know, guys seem to like those, you know, and less dough and all that. Guys seem to like those modeling versions of the Fender amps, right? They make them in a deluxe and in what they call them, the Tone Master series, right? So they're basically like a super lightweight digital version of, you know, but they look cool, which to me, yeah, they look like, you know, at first glance, it'd be like, oh, that guy's got a deluxe reverb up there. So you could try one of those too. There's a few. Yeah. It's called getting old, but you're doing it with style. Yeah, I know, but I just have these few, like, there's a few things. I don't mean I'm getting old with style, and I don't know if that's the truth. I mean, I know I'm getting old. It's just weird that I have these, like, I'll remember it. Okay, Cerebella. I remember the name of it now because I looked at it. But, like, in a week, I'll do that again. That's what freaks me out. Because I had the, okay, what is it again? That amp. What? Oh, you're forgetting again the name. You know, over and over, even have to remind myself. What's that about? Is that getting older? Or is it, like, long COVID or who knows what, you know? I don't know. So, welcome to old age, says John. I said this the other day, actually. Well, it was a while ago. It was a few months ago now that I think about it. But I was on stage at a venue, and I was like, damn it, I can't remember this one thing. It's like, and I was like, God, getting older sucks or whatever. This one thing. And this crew guy that was really sweet, and he was a local crew dude that was working there at the venue. I think it was from the Backline Company, actually. And he said, just wait till you get to be my age. Why am I in the kitchen? How did I get here? And I just laughed, really, you know. It was like, oh, I got that to look forward to. Okay, thanks, man. Anyways, yeah. John says he's been in LA a bunch, loves the weather and the food. I love it here too, man. Love it. Why do all the Fender Custom Shop guitars have one string tree and Squier uses two? It's a good question. Good question. I don't know. Yeah. I've never noticed that. You know, many times I find on a guitar that has a two-string tree or even one-string tree, you can take them off. If you wrap the strings right, if the nuts cut right and stuff, you can get away with getting rid of them, which I would always recommend if you can do. For example, I took it off my 64 Strat. I don't have one on there. I don't like string trees if you can avoid them, if at all possible. I look really red right now, and I swear I'm not. I think I got the contrast set wrong, and my neck's all like. Just watching the stream, I look bizarre. I'm gonna have to revisit, or maybe it's the caffeine or something. I don't know. Maybe I am this red. I don't think so though. Oh, why do you all watch me? What are you all doing here? Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Hanging with this senile old man that's turning red for some reason. Okay, let's see. JMP 2203 1980 sounds great with pedals. That's a great pedal amp for sure, but that's a little bit much to haul down on Broadway in Nashville. I think one of the things with those gigs is there's a, you know, kind of a fast turnover, and the stages are kind of small, and you got to take it's a combo kind of town. Generally speaking, not a lot of people bringing JCM 800s in those clubs on Broadway. Yep. You should be worried if you forget what the amp is for. What do I do with this? I don't even, what is this thing, this guitar thing? Yeah. John says he forgets the names of his employees. It's weird, man. When you, names are funny too. Like, you know, you'll go in a place often, let's say in the bartender or a server or something, and remember their names. And I've had a few incidents where, like, I'll go in and I'll be like, you know, maybe I haven't been for like a couple months or something, but I'll go in and I'll be like, I can't remember that girl's name, you know? Oh no, you know? And I'm like, I know I've called her by name like 25 times. Why can't I remember it? That's happened to me in the last few years. So, yeah. Rob says, do you ever walk into a room looking for something you can't remember why you were in that room? Not often. That's what that guy was saying, you know, the local crew guy. And, you know, why am I in the kitchen? How did I get here? You know, but that's scary stuff. But no, I'm not there yet. Thank God. I'm not that old. Pete, do you need a hug? Always. Who doesn't? these days. Guitars for your project with a super chat. Would adding additional PT-112 to my current PT-15 and 112 be equivalent to your 212 PT-15 cab? No, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say so exactly, no. You could do an interesting thing with that setup to add, you know, if you wanted to do that and then add volume, you could actually reamp, because with the PT-15 you could take the line out and run into something like, say, you know, a Duncan power stage or whatever they're called. Is that what it's called? A power stage 170 or 200 or whatever, you know, the little power amp. And you could even then, you know, do a little stereo rig in a couple different ways. I'm just saying you could power the 112 off another power amp. This is not exactly what your question here, but you know, you could do some things where you could actually add volume to the amp by taking, you know, the line out into a little power amp, or maybe even an effect, and get a little bit of quasi wet dry, you know, thing going on. It's different things that you could do if you want to add another 112. But if your goal is to get the sound of the 212, it's not really going to do that. You will get more sound, but there's something about the way a cabinet couples, right? You know, 412 or 212, when there's more volume, and I don't mean like how loud something is, but I mean when there's more space inside a cabinet, more volume, they develop bass of their own, and they've got a sound. And, you know, it's, right, a Bogner oversized 212, or, you know, it doesn't sound like a 112 ever. You know, 112s always have a little bit of a boxy thing. And when you turn them up, it's especially noticeable. A little bit of a boxy sound. Can be mitigated depending on the design of the 112 and ports and things like that. But they never quite do what a 212 or a true 412 does. One of the neat things about a true 412 cabinet, you know, is that you can actually turn the bass down on, say, something like a vintage Marshall, which will clean up the amp a little bit, make it a little tighter when you turn the bass down. But you'll still have enough bass because the cabinet makes bass. It's the same reason why a 410 cabinet with an SVT is cool, but an 810 is always better because the cabinet actually develops low end, and because of the volume, the space of the inside of the cabinet, and the shape of the cabinet and stuff. So it's never quite the same sound using two 112s as using a 212, or using four 112s instead of a 412. It's a different sound, you know. Could be a preferable sound. Maybe you like less low end and the slightly more, you know, slightly boxy mids you might get out of a 112. But nonetheless, that is a characteristic of cabinets. Now, that I love the 112 for the PT-15. It sounds really great, and the speaker we chose and everything works really well. But yeah. What's my thoughts on difference between 6L6 and EL34? 6L6 always has a little more of a, you know, big low end and extended top. EL34s in comparison have a more forward mid sound. That's the difference to me. Now, you can change things in the circuit to kind of mitigate that, but that's the characteristic of the tubes. If all things created equal, if you were to hear a sort of 6L6 based power amp or an EL34, the EL34 is more mid-range, right? What do you say, guys? You know, 6L6s can work great, especially in a modern high gain kind of application and stuff. You know, it can be a really good sound. Think Soldano SLO, right? He chose 5881s. I always wonder if that was because of the sound, or if it was at the time there was less reliable EL34s. Actually, the whole like the EL34 reliability thing was sort of starting when the SLO came out, and the 5881, the Sovtek, was really reliable, you know, which is what a lot of these amps used for years. But I wonder if Soldano was actually shipping US 6L6s in his amp, much like Peavey was. I mean, in the 5150. You know, in the late 80s, early 90s, was he using US tubes, or did he go right to the Sovtek? Anybody know that with an SLO? Because that, for years, was the tube in the, you know, the SLO. It was kind of a cool running power section, as I understand it. You know, not a lot of the distortion, or barely any, happens in an SLO in the power amp, I don't think. I think it's all about the front end. And then he kind of designed a, you know, that's where you sort of see a 6L6 can sort of shine. If you want to get drive out of the amp, I don't really think there's any substitute. If you want a Marshall-y thing for the, you know, if you want that late 60s Marshall-y thing versus the middle 60s, you know, Super Lead versus JTM 45, you kind of got to have the EL34 to me. I don't know. Just in my opinion. I'll get that super chat there. There's a couple I got to get to here. Is the Marshall SV20H really that good? Great little amp, I think. You know, I don't think they're the most robust if you look on the inside, the way that the build and all that, but they seem fine, you know, and they do sound good. They sound good. They sound like those, you know, Studio Vintage little guys. They're both the 800 and the Plexi one. They have a good sound. You know, I've long been telling people, like, make baby Plexis, because that's cool, and people will get them, and they'll like them. So Marshall did it. Do I find when EL34s get old that there's more fizz in the tone? I don't really notice that. I mean, I more notice, like, either out and out problems, tubes red plating, or just, you know, dying, or bass getting crappy, or sound swelling up and down. That's happened to me with old power tubes. But it can be so, like, kind of slow, that progression. So only when you replace them, you know, do you notice, like, a difference. But fizz isn't really something I've noticed, like, as tubes get old. No, I wouldn't say. Could be, though. Maybe I'm just not, you know. Maybe I just haven't noticed. But anyways. Just showing my appreciation for what you do. Hey, thanks, Dwayne. Appreciate you as well, man. Appreciate you being here. Thanks for the super chats, you guys. This has been super fun. It's 1:51. I'll hang another 15 minutes or so, and then I'm going to go and get some lunch, and then do a little work around here I got to do today. And I want you guys to think about, too, like, if you know how I started today off talking about a few of my favorite fuzzes. Give me some other ideas, you know, in the chat right now, if you think of anything, for other things you'd like me to do. You know, difference between volume of 50 and 100 watt. That's something I could do easily with the SL68 and my 50 watt Plexi up there. How different are they? Or, you know, what's some other ones? I mean, favorite, you know, I could find 3 Klon style drives and plug all those in, you know, see if we can hear a difference. Things like that, like, you know. And just have little 10, 15-minute topics to kind of maybe start off each show with. Here's another super chat from Guitars for Your Project. Would the 212 intended for your PT100 work well with the PT15? Yeah, I did the first Classic Rock Show tour with it. Hard to find the 212 that's intended for the PT15. I'm sorry to hear that. I will have to tell them. You can order them through any dealer if you don't mind waiting a little bit. You know, they'll get one for you. And the wait shouldn't be as long as an amp or something, because the cabs, yeah, that's not like the same. So if you want to order one from a store like Humbucker or you know, Guitars, etc., or you know, the different shops, Austin Guitar Works, that's what it's called, I think. You know, those different shops, you know, they'll get one for you. You just might have to order it and then wait a little bit. But yeah, the original one's in a really nice cabinet, and is actually a little higher power handling than, you know, you're going to be able to use it, you know, with a 51 amp, no problem, or other amplifiers a little more. And it's a really good cabinet. The original horizontal PT is a terrific sounding cab, I think. So I have no reservations recommending it. It'll sound really good with a PT15. I used it, yeah, for a whole tour. Classic Rock Show 2020, that's what I used. Any recommendation on an amp that can do a good 80s Van Halen or Vibe? Excuse me. I mean, that's, you know, my PT100 will get you there. The BE will get you there. Those would be the 2 main ones I can think of that come right off the top of my head, you know. A good 3-channel. For Vi, you're going to want a clean channel for some stuff. Right, you know, for certain sounds, but yeah, a good modded Marshall style amp, you know, PT100 or BE100, I would say. Let's see. Oh, sorry, I already did that one. Here's a couple more super chats. Thanks, you guys, for all the super chats here coming in at the end. I appreciate it. Aaron, just got a Friedman Runt 20 cab. Was wanting to try and do a mono with my Blues Junior. Got an AB box and stereo pedals, if that helps. Yeah, I mean, just come right out of a stereo pedal. You're going to have to ground lift one of them. You know, once again, you could use, happen to have it sitting right here, something like the Twin City from my friends at Radial. This will work great. to go out to both amps, and then you can either A/B them or turn them both on at the same time while breaking the ground loop with that switch right there, and also phase. They might be out of phase with one another, which you'll know right away. Oh, that was another one that I thought I could do for one of these topics on the show. What's out of phase sound like? That'd be an easy thing for me to show. 'Cause we were talking about it last week, and just thought maybe I can help show that. But yeah, just plug them both in and see what you think. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate that. Cole, I generally love EL34s, but I've been on a 6v6 kick. Have you tried a matchless little Canyon? No, haven't. Don't know that amp. One I haven't checked out, but that's cool. Wonder what it sounds like. I don't know. Let's see. Jack says it's crazy you're going to get lunch. It's dark out where I am. Well, it'll be dark here in a few hours. It gets dark so early now, right? Wintertime. Yeah, I eat lunch kind of late, so I haven't really eaten much today. So it's going to be time to do that soon, and then that'll be my main meal of the day, really, I think. What's for lunch? I don't know. I feel like a nice soup and a sandwich. Basic. Have I replaced my two H9s with the H90 on my board? Not yet, but that's going to happen before. I'll do it sometime in December. I have a new switcher, too, from my friends at... it just arrived. Would you like to see it? Shall I show you my switcher? That's one of the last things we do here today. I got it from Musicom Lab. The old version of my switcher, the Mark V from Musicom Lab, I can't hook up with, it doesn't have a USB port on it. So in order to do USB, you got to use the MIDI jacks. It's a little bit more, of a thing. And also the editor won't work with the newest Mac operating system. So that was a big thing for me where I was like, okay, this isn't going to work for me. I should get the new one. So I got a new one, and it's got a USB port, and the editor will work and all that good stuff. So, yeah. So I'll go get the switcher in just a sec here. Here's a couple quick questions. How do you set your delay time for leads? I generally like I like a split stereo if I can do stereo, and I like a 250 or 500 or 300 and 600 or 400 and 800, the two delays, right? With a shorter one on one side that's half the time of the other one. Or the Andy Timmons thing sounds great. I used that a bit on the Five for Fighting tour that I just did, where they're two cascading into one another, and one's more like a eighth note triplet, and the other one's a quarter note. And they feed into one another. It creates a reverby type sound. That works really great. That's like the Halo delay from Andy Timmons. So I like those. If I'm only going to use one delay, somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 to 450, then I just tap in a quarter note, generally speaking. For most songs, that seems to work good. I like about 4 repeats, and I like a bit of the high end rolled off in the delay generally, so it's not too bright and kind of blends into the background a little bit. Pete says, like the theme approach. Got the mini Crybaby after seeing your rig rundown. It's awesome. It's so tiny. It'd be fun to do. Well, I could pull out 3 different wah-wahs and hook them all up. That'd be fun, too. Showing boost pedals would be great. Yeah, cool. That sounds good. Let's see. Showing phasers would be cool. That's a good idea, Ben. Yeah, I've got a few different ones that I could do. A couple sleepers I could show you guys. The Seymour Duncan analog phaser is really great. Got a great gooey 70s kind of sound. I did a video for it. It's a really good one, so we could show that. And that said, I've got a Phase 95 on my pedal board I'm very happy with. Good old Dunlop sounds fantastic. Karen says, I'm falling asleep at 8 p.m. here in LA. Yeah, it's not a bad thing to go to bed early, is it? I don't mind that. I love sleeping these days. God, it's fantastic. Although I had kind of crappy dreams last night. It woke me up early. You ever have dreams like right before you get up, and it like they're so bothering you? It's just kind of annoying dreams that like you just get up because you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I had that this morning. Just an annoyance. So let's see here. Grilled cheese and clam chowder. That sounds like a gluten nightmare, unfortunately. I wish I could do it. A dairy gluten, that sounds like a stomach ache. If you're like me and you quit eating certain... it sounds amazing, but it also sounds like a stomach ache, Sounds delicious and like a stomach ache. If you're like me and you've quit eating certain things because of the way they make you feel, sometimes certain foods sound like pain. Yeah. Would you consider an alternative to the Unit 67 on your board? There's nothing else that does with exactly what it does, so I tend to leave it on there. But in that space, I've kind of got 2 spaces on my board, one where the freak out is, but I almost never take it off. and then where the Unit 67 is. Those are my two pedals that aren't in loops, and I can kind of pull them and put other things there. So that would be the space where the Unit 67 is. If I need something for a gig, and I'll put it there. For instance, on the Chiyoshi Nagabushi tour, I used a drop, the harmonist or whatever it was called from Boss, where I could do that sound, where it would drop pitch, kind of like the Bigsby pedal does, sort of, but you can do it on the harmonist too. So I used that in that space because I needed that for that tour. So, how about comparing the Thornbuckers? Well, that's a good idea. I would just need two guitars that were almost the same. I guess I kind of have that. I mean, yeah, older body with the same bridge, close enough anyway. I could show what a couple of my different Sir Strats sound like and show the different Thornbuckers. Yeah. Love the H90. With your switcher, how hard are they to wrap your head around and set up for a guy that's never used one? They're not like super, like not going to need the manual. I still need the manual for some things, but they're not too bad either. I mean, it's a great, little bit of a learning curve, but not too bad. They're not like crazy difficult like an Axe-Fx or something, with super deep. Not to say the Axe-Fx is, prohibitively difficult or anything, but it's just deeper, That's all. Peter Evans, love the new show format. Thank you. What brand of guitar cables do you like? Videos this week. So I like Cordial a lot. I've been using those. I did a video for them a while ago. Terrific sounding cables. I like, for many years, Providence cable. That's what I've got all my whole pedal board done with. It's Providence. And they're really nice small ends, and it's high quality low capacitance cable. Sounds really good. Japanese company. They make pedals as well. That's a couple. D'Addario always makes good stuff. So whatever they've got, they did Planet Waves for a long time. I don't know if they're calling them that anymore. I don't think they are, but their cables are really good. Maybe they are, and I just don't know. My old friend from Boss recently gave me a few of their cables, and they're really nice. I've been using them as well. So, but yeah, that's kind of it, I guess. Tomo, you guys know Tomo. He's got a signature Providence cable. He sent me a version of it a while ago, and I still have yet to try it. And I'm sorry, my friend, if you ever watch this, I'm going to get to it and check it out. So, but that's another Providence. Karen says, I'm not falling asleep just now. You can take a nap, Karen. It's Sunday. So, if you want to, feel free. We won't. I'll still probably be here. No, I got to go soon, but. Within the next 5 minutes, I'm going to jet. But first, thanks for sharing all the tips. Second, a show on your approach to gain staging. Okay, that's a good idea. Gain staging, overdrives, cool. What pedal board cables? There's a question from Karen. Yeah, so I use the Providence. Mainly because the ends are so tiny that they came up with this great end and like kind of pedal board cable. It's made for pedal boards, really. And there's a number of different companies that do this now. Some of them have the very flat ends, Providence are still a straight end, but they're that long. They're very short. So they're great for pedals and wiring switchers and stuff. I'm going to go get that switcher, too, before I get out of here and show it to you guys. We'll have a little unboxing. How fun. It's so silly. What if you use Boss EQ200 as a pre and post drive EQing? Yeah, you can do that. I think you can do any kind of tone using that method. Agreed. Yeah. 2 independent channels. Yeah, it's like 2 EQs in one. Great pedal. I did a video for it. I love the sounds I was able to get in that video out of that EQ pedal. 2 EQs in one. You can do pre-post. Amazing. Or stereo, whatever you want. I don't know if you were doing stereo, why you would want to EQ one side different than the other, but you could, is the point. Thornbucker 2 is a great pickup. Thanks, Paul. I'm glad you like it. I love it, too. What if you spill Halo Top ice cream on your Keeley Halo? I don't recommend that, but I do recommend Halo Top ice cream. Supposedly low calories, and the salted caramel and the chocolate are delicious, especially if you eat them together. Different Thornbuckers in your various signature guitars. I could show that, yes. You still using the Helix as a backup? Haven't on recent tours, but only not out of any reason. The last stuff I've done is basically Quad Cortex, and I've had 2 of them, so I've taken both of those. So we'll see what happens on the Classic Rock Show 2023 run. I've still got to figure out my rig. I may do a unique rig on that tour. I may do I was sort of thinking, let's mix it up and do like I did with Melissa Etheridge many years ago, clean amp, dirty amp, and kind of vintage. So I was thinking maybe go in Bella combo for Fendery kind of, with some pedals in front for certain songs. Be nice for like, if you're playing Eagles or different stuff like that, Not saying we will, but if we were, cleaner stuff, the 112 combo, a bit of reverb, some compression, that kind of thing might be nice. And then SL68, I was thinking, with a 412. Because I have a 412 over in England already. So what if I just took my SL68 and my Bella and then I A-B'd? Maybe take my power station too so that I can do some stereo stuff on the, on the SL68 in the return. The only thing I ever really do is delay when I'm doing on a high gain sound. So I was thinking, if I had the SL68, what would I need a loop? Because it doesn't have a loop. So how would I add post effects? Well, it's delay. Kind of want delay. So I could either reamp it with probably the easiest things to take my power station. Just it's adding an extra layer of tubes and all that to the equation, but maybe that's the way to go, yeah. Cables falling apart, not working, are the bane of guitarists. I would agree with that. And even expensive cables do that. Why? I agree. A lot of expensive cables, they crap out, and I've had a lot of cheaper cables that don't. So it's an important thing. The durability of a cable is a big deal to me, and how long they last, almost as much as how they sound, B. Scott says, 391 watching, only 196 likes. Come on, folks, hit the thumbs up. Please hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed the show, and if you like what I'm doing, just give it a little click right now. Helps to spread the love far and wide. And please subscribe. I never say that on here. I should more. I should toot my own horn more. No, I shouldn't. That would be egotistical. But you know what I mean. If you're watching and you haven't subscribed, I'd love it if you did. Really helps. It helps things. And thanks for being here, everybody. You're the best. Any recommendation to get that 80s micro pitch shift pedal rack unit? I mean, look no further than the H9, the H90, the new one, or the micro pitch, which is a red little dedicated Eventide pedal dedicated to that sound, the micro pitch pedal. Any of those will do it, and it's all the same algorithm, but they sound terrific. If that's all you need, yeah, then you could just get that pedal, the micro pitch. Lauren brings up something here. This was so cool this week. Talk about the Melissa Etheridge comics. So Melissa recently came out with a book, I guess, and it was so sweet because she featured me in the book, and I'm going to show you the what it is. So it's a book about her guitars. It's called Heartstrings, and oops, let me find the photos here. It's kind of a comic, animated book, right? And features her and her guitars. And so there's the cover. It says Melissa Etheridge and her guitars, right? And you can see the folks that helped at the top there. Sorry, I can't read the names right now, but that helped write the book. I remember she used to play that Dano all the time. And it's a Barry that's pictured on the cover there. But this is me in comic form, back when I had longer hair. And it's really cute, man. She's got a black Les Paul, and it says, yeah, she'll do nicely. I wonder if that was supposed to be mine, because she eventually got a custom, but I showed her mine first, I think. And she said, Pete Thorn is one of the greatest technical guitar players. It's really cute. It turns out he is also an amazing teacher. It's so sweet. Now, this is like this is really, really special to me, because she there was a time where when I first joined her, for the first tour that I did with her, I was playing the guitar solos, all the guitar solos, because that's what had always happened in her band. She didn't really play electric guitar, I don't think, before this period of time that I'm talking about right now. She mainly played her Ovation 12-string. She's an amazing guitar player on the 12-string. She's got her own style. It's very unique, very rhythmic and driving, and her whole sound, early sound, is kind of based around that. But she wanted to get into playing more electric guitar. So as we get into doing I think it was the Falling Up tour, she said, hey, I think I'm going to play the solo on that song that I'd been doing, the whole previous year and a half or whatever. And then on another one, she wanted to do it. And so my role on the second tour that I did with Melissa became much more about rhythm guitar. And I guess there's different ways that a different guitarist might perceive that, right? Like you could be like, oh, that's not fun. I'm not getting to play all these solos now. And I feel like I'm being, you might mentally, right, say I'm being marginalized, or what's wrong with me doing it, or all that stuff. Well, I didn't do that. I remember going, oh, she wants to play more solos on her own songs. And I was like, okay, well, can I help you with that? Like, because she hadn't really played lead guitar live. So I sort of said, okay, well, let's work on it together. And I remember teaching her, she used to bend the strings down a lot. And I would be like, it's better if you push up and hold the notes up, because it's easier for muting. You're going to get less other strings ringing and stuff. And we would sit backstage and stuff and work on this stuff. And she over the years has brought that up, that I didn't, that I was helpful with it, as opposed to taking like the other approach that I guess you could, And I this is like what you get back from that, like 10 years later, I guess, is that she's featured that time now in this comic book that she's come out with. I think it's a printed, hardcover book or whatever, but it's like an animated. It's cute. It's really cute, like the drawings and stuff. And that means a lot to me, because she's a great person, and she was coming from totally she wanted to learn and do more and do something she hadn't explored. And she's the artist. It's her name on the damn marquee, and it's her songs. And so to embrace that and just say, of course, I'll help you with that. That was my approach with it. And I feel like this is a little nod to that period in time. And it just really means a lot to me, because she's one of the absolute favorite people that I've ever worked for. And her organization, and it's a very family vibe, and it's a really, really good vibe. And it was never about ego or any of that stuff, So, anyways, that's that story, and it's just a cool time. So, T-Top says that's an incredible lesson, the power of being humble and kind. It's like it's if you get paid and teach at the same time. Yeah, I come from teaching too. I mean, I taught kids when that was one of my earliest jobs. I had 35 students a week when I was about 17 years old. It was almost full time. I mean, I would go after school for the couple of years leading up to me leaving to LA and teach at a teaching studio. And I was making good money at the time, and I had this job, and I used to teach. I liked teaching. So, it's not something I really do anymore that much. Occasionally, if anybody's like, we do less, I don't really do it anymore. I'd rather do courses where I'm filming things and then putting them out in along the lines of what Tim Pierce does with his studio guitar masterclass, things like that. That's more interesting to me, filming lessons, because you can do so much more and get it out there to more people if you do things that way. Anybody out there thinking about doing teaching, it's a great thing to know. I think that it's these days, you can teach a one-on-one lesson. It's really special. It's great to do that. But you can also, in the same amount of time that you teach that one-on-one lesson, or a little more time, film a guitar lesson that you can then, either stream off your website to people, or, sell via a download or something, and it'll pay you in your sleep. So that's one major. I know probably a lot of you out there know that already, but it's an important thing, that leads you to a little more independence and not relying on constantly, employment, from others and stuff like that. So take that to heart if you're a guitar teacher. Just, figure out a way to film some courses and stuff and get it out there. Anyways, I'm getting super out in the weeds here and talking about 18 million different things. But if you take away anything from this, that's a good tip. I feel like, don't get in on that, because it's great if 10 years down the road you're still getting somebody streaming or buying that lesson and getting, cause the information's always good, right? There'll always be somebody new that doesn't know that information starting on guitar and wants to know it. So it tends to pay off over time. Anyways, everybody, I should probably go. I'm gonna go eat and stuff and get some stuff done. Oh, I was gonna show you the switcher though. So all right, last couple minutes here. Let me grab this out of the hallway. We'll open it up and check it out. Came all the way from South Korea. a look. See what it is. Should be about the same size, and I think be a relatively easy install. I don't think it's really that much different than the Mark V in shape, form. It's got a different display, I know that. That's a little better, which would be nice for me because I can't see. Alright. Yep, looks like it's just about exactly the same size as the Mark V. So this is Musicom Lab. And these are the switchers that I've used for years. So let me just take a look here on my board. Oh, it's smaller. That's cool. It's actually smaller. I think the switches ever so slightly closer together, possibly, the switches, which isn't a problem. But that is actually really cool because it might free up. I think it looks like here, I'm going to take a photo of it so you guys can see the size compared to the Mark V. Where's my phone? And if you're considering these, this would be good for you to know. Check this out. Of course, the photo oriented weird. One sec here. Edit. Rotate that way. There we go. So look at how much smaller it is actually than the one that's on the board. That's big enough to actually, you know, if I wanted to, like, see how I've got the woodshed compressor and the MXR there just off to the side of the photo, big enough that I could actually probably put a full-size pedal there as opposed to mini pedals. Display really gave some, anyway, you get the idea. That's cool. So the main thing I think that's different on here is a brighter, different display, and then you've also got this USB port here, so I can now do you know, hook up, and it'll be so much faster for programming, putting together patches and stuff like that, which I'm going to need, I think, for the classic rock show. You know, that's coming up, the new tour. You know, coming up with a whole new bunch of patches and stuff like that. It'll just be way faster. So cool, fantastic. So thanks, Musicom Lab, for getting this out to me, and I will get it installed. And nice that you made it smaller as well. Terrific switchers. I've used these for years. I'm very happy with them. Once you get into like the ecosystem of how a product works, you know what I mean? Their editing and all that, and the menus, it's like, why change, you know? It's again, I don't, you know, have an aversion to too much tech and learning curves and stuff. Okay, well, I've been here 2 hours and 17 minutes, so I should probably split. I'll just look at the bottom of the comments here and see if there's anything else. Todd says he would feel guilty not buying a gig rig switcher as much that pedal show as he's watched. Hey, he makes a great product. Dan's a great guy, and I'm not at all, you know, adverse to trying one of his switchers someday too. They're terrific. But I'm just so used. I've been using them 10 years, at least 10 years now. At least since 2011, I think. 11 years I've been using the Musicom Labs. Javier says, thanks for the stream. Hey, man, thanks for being here. Monstro says, fuzz it, I missed it. Oh, well, I'm not. You can rewind and watch. Or, you know, click on the thing again and it'll rewind. That's how old I am. Rewind the VHS before you take it back. You guys know what I'm talking about, don't you? Some of you don't. Start the show again. You'll see my little fuzz dealio. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks so much for being here. This was really fun. Thanks for all your super chats. Please hit subscribe if you haven't. Please, please, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the thumbs up before you go if you don't mind. And I'll see you next Sunday, and I'll come up with another little theme to start off the show next week, be it boosts or Thornbucker pickups differences or, you know, whatever it ends up being, phasers, you know, stuff like that. You know, I really actually want to try doing the PT100 versus the PT100 plug-in too, because I know a way I can hook that up and directly kind of A/B them quickly. You can hear real amp versus plug-in amp. So that'll be another thing I want to do. Okay, thanks you guys. Talk to you soon. See you later. Bye. Take it easy.